ever wanted to know who you are or where you're from?
Wow, I really wanted to know where my family's from. I kind of thought we were from South Carolina, but I think I heard somebody say that we were from maybe the Virgin Islands or something like that.
I know oftentimes my family thought that they came from West Africa when they found out that we came from the South Central portion of Africa.
Many of us have heard that we're from one place, later to find out that none of that our family members thought was true was fact.
So his family, because his mother was Native American, so we claim Native American because my ancestry has shown that we have that mixture, that blend that most of us have, but less Native American than African. So knowing your heritage and knowing where you came from is important. DNA does count.
So that'll be good to know.
Who are you?
I'm Bishop Allison Abrams. Welcome to the Who Are You show. We had a great show last week, and I tell you, we're going to talk about even more on this week. All right, so let's jump right into our topic for today. Have you ever asked yourself, what is the significance of a family tree? You know, I remember many years ago, there was a family reunion that we had. It was in California, and a couple of my cousins called me and said, hey, they're going to put up the family tree for this particular reunion. So I said, okay, as if that meant I needed to be there because they were putting up a family tree. And so, you know, I had seen family trees before, but I didn't think, you know, it was that significant that I needed to be there because they were putting up the family tree. But I want to say I do appreciate the work that genealogists have done, family genealogists or family researchers. I appreciate all of the hard work that it takes to put those together. And yes, I do believe today I should have been there to see them reveal all of their work and to show the family tree. Now, let me say, we sometimes say, well, you know, hey, somebody's doing it. I know it's around. Whenever I want to look at it, you know, I can. But family trees are very important. So I want to make sure that you all understand that on today, because there is significance in the family tree. So we want to make sure that we take seriously and appreciate that tree that has a list that makes you who you are on today. Have you ever asked yourself, why should you do a family tree, or should you even get a copy of the family tree? Let me say, I believe that yes, you need a copy of your family tree. There are many people who are somewhere around you that are in your family. The reason you don't know is because you don't know that entire tree. You don't know a lot of people who comprise that tree, whose names are on that tree, who had children, who had grandchildren, who had great-grandchildren that have the same blood running through their veins as you do. And so I believe that it's important. There's no way you can know everybody in your family today. There is absolutely no way. but I do believe that we should know as many people as we can, or know some of the anchors of, or the pillars of the families that are in certain areas. You know, a lot of times your grandmother used to say, well, my sister moved and she went over to Detroit, and they have a large family in Detroit. So now if you know the sister's, grandmother's sister's name, and you go to Detroit and you say, hey, do you know Mabel Smith? And they'll say, oh, wait a minute, Mabel, that's my aunt. And you say, Mabel Smith, did she come from Georgia? Yeah, she came from Georgia. Then, hey, there the connection is right there. So you got to know some of those pillars in the family. And then once you begin to talk about that, then some people that have worked with you, some people that have sang in the choir with you, some people whose children have gone to school with your children, you'll find out are your relatives. All right. So I think it's important that we begin to, look at the family tree and begin to, once again, talk to some of the older adults in our family and ask them about some of our family members who, maybe we didn't grow up with them, but they're in other parts of the country, and maybe we only see them if we decide to go to the family reunion. But I do think it's important that we get that information so that we can begin to know who we are and, be able to solidify our self-identity. Now, maybe you've seen a family tree, felt it was too much. It was a lot to try to understand. I've seen some of the researchers in my family, they've put the family tree together, and, some of the indentations and the way that they've written things, I had to go back and ask them, okay, look, what is meant by this, and why is this way? And so it doesn't hurt to ask, questions, because you may learn a lot if you really do begin to ask questions about why they're doing the writing or the documentation the way that they are. And so it's very interesting for those who know how they actually write that. They start with the oldest person, and then they name the children that they had. And then they have to include the spouses. And sometimes the spouses can get to be a bit much. Let me say that, because I have done my own family tree, and I've done it on Ancestry. And so I have over 1,800 people on my tree. So now those people who decided to get married 2, 3, 4, 5 times, it gets to be a bit much after a while, okay? Because then you see the children's names, and sometimes you don't know which mama was the mama, okay, to the cousin, and so it gets to be a lot, but you have to kind of keep up and follow the family line, okay, and sometimes you can't. You just got to ask somebody, look, now this cousin was in the house with this cousin, but I'm not sure if they had the same mother, okay, did they? And this cousin was in the house with this cousin. Did they have the same father? Okay, and how many different fathers were there? And so you do have to ask those questions, because you want your family tree to be as accurate as possible. And sometimes there are family members who may not remember things correctly, and sometimes the tree is not correct. And then you may talk with someone who is a part of that particular branch of the tree, and they may say, no, that's not accurate. This was actually the father, and these were the children of that father, and these are the children of, and it goes on like that. So again, communication, asking questions, and, making sure that you're actually ready to receive the answers when you go seeking those questions to be answered by family members. Family trees are important. And even though they can be long, filled with lots of names, often, feel like it's overwhelming, they are worth having. So, are you ready to be the family historian? Let me ask that way. I told my family members, my mother's cousins, the Collins, the Browns, the Washingtons, the Whites, the Du Bois, I told them, look, I need y'all to pass all this down to me because I believe I'm ready and I want to do that. I did tell the historians that. And so they have said they're going to pass it down to me. So I'm excited. I'm excited that I'm glad that my turn hasn't come yet. But when it's time, I will be ready to receive all that information. I already have the information they've done. And I have the books that they printed. And, you know, hopefully I'll be able to do it as well as they did. So what is a family tree? A family tree. That's what we're talking about tonight on Who Are You? This is show number 2 of Who Are You? A family tree is a chart that makes maps lineage, usually of a particular person, as far back as records will allow. Now, I want to say those of us who are people of color, the records do get kind of fuzzy at a certain census period. And, you know, sometimes you may need professional help when looking at some of the owners that had slaves on their plantations, some of their records. So sometimes you may need professional help. You can go back with the census back into the early 1900s. But, you know, as far as 18s, I would have to say you may start to need some help with some of those records. A family tree often begins with the current generation and works its way backwards, okay? That's important because the family tree always starts with the person that's doing it. So I know some of our family historians and genealogists, you know, when you get the books and you see certain things, you're going to see it with that oldest person first. But I want to say when you're doing your family tree, I want you to start with you because that is the easiest place to start. Surely you know your name. Surely you know the year you were born, the place where you were born, okay? Even if you were adopted, they had to give you some information, okay? They may not have told you who, but you want to make sure you write that down. Now, if you have any children, you want to make sure that you write your children on your family tree. Even if you adopted some children, make sure you put them on your family tree. And then if you are married or have been married numerous times, you do want to make sure you put those persons on your family tree. Now, if you have children with different people, you do want to notate that on the family tree because your children at some point may want to go back and look through their family heritage or their family lineage. And so it's important that you have that there for them. So if you have a child with male A, make sure you have male A connected to that child on your family tree. If you have another child with male B, make sure you have that male connected to that child on your family tree. You had 3 other children with male C, then you want to make sure that you have that child, those children connected with that male on your family tree. It's important to be accurate, to give accurate information, no matter how sometimes we may feel conscious about certain things, but it is important to give accurate information on the family tree. Those who are in same-sex relationships, if that is a marriage, you have to put that on the family tree. And so we want to make sure we are documenting and notating everything so that people, as we are in the lineage for somebody else, will have that information. And so once you have done your own family, immediate family, then do your parents. Who were your parents? Do you know where they were born? You want to put that information down, okay? And then go to their parents, okay? And so that's important. So now when you say, what is your family tree worth? Well, we know that it doesn't have a monetary value, but understanding who your ancestors were, where they came from, can help give you a sense of your roots. And so many people didn't have this available to them at some point in our history. In Germany during the early 20th century, the question, what is a family tree, often caused fear, as the Nazis used family trees to identify those with ancestors that excluded them from the master race. like Jews. And so, they would look at your family tree. And so that's why a lot of them still don't have family trees today. But we know in America, many people have family trees, and we take advantage of the opportunity and the ability to be able to create those. Okay, so it may not have monetary value, but please make sure that if you have the opportunity and you have the resources to be able to put that family tree together, so that maybe somebody else behind you or maybe somebody else around you will be able to see the tree that you have created. Okay, now a lot of people, when they do family trees, they want to answer the question, who's in my family? And so you want to, as I said, look at your parents. You want to look at your grandparents. You want to look at your great grandparents. And it's important, I think, to put aunts, uncles, cousins, sisters, brothers, naturally, children, stepchildren on your family tree. Okay, and so once you begin to do that, you also want to include half siblings, multiple marriages. I've said that. You want to include all of those things on your family tree, because that's what makes your family your family. And so I believe that if you were to leave anyone out, whether they're the family drunk or not, you would not be doing justice to your family tree. Okay, and so even those cousins that you had a rift with, y'all have not gotten along since childhood, they are supposed to be on your family tree. So let's make sure that we get those names. And sometimes we find out secrets like, this isn't even our family name. Somebody changed the family name. Okay, imagine finding that out when you start doing some research. Somebody's going to find that out. I was at a family reunion in Newport News, Virginia, some years ago, and it was interesting that some of my cousins, I forget what last name they had, but my cousin, who's a historian, she shared with them a part of the history where their direct ancestor changed his name because some people were looking for him. And so everybody who was his child, grandchild, great-grandchild, great-great-great-grandchild, who had that name, or who had the name and married and got another name, all thought this is our family name. And to find out that really that was a name that their ancestor made up, because they felt like, hey, nobody's going to look for me with this name. They were all very shocked. Very shocked. And so it's amazing how people do that. And I'll say one of my ancestors, my great-grandfather, my grandfather's father, changed his name as well, relocated to another area of the country, and lived a whole life there. And so, people did that a long time ago, and they did it oftentimes for safety reasons. They wanted to change their identity. And some folks weren't doing it for safety. Now, everybody wasn't trying to be safe, but most people did it for safety reasons. And they had to start over. And they had to have a new name where nobody could find them. Nobody could associate with them with the former life that they lived. And sometimes black people had whites who were looking for them. And they just needed to basically become somebody else. And that's what they did. And all of the children they had with that new identity, and the grandchildren and great-grandchildren oftentimes did not know that that was not their family name. And that was just the name that their ancestor came up with because they decided to change their identity. So those things come out. And don't be afraid, of finding out those types of things, because that makes you you. But it also gives you information about your family that could help you then find some other members in your family. If you all of a sudden your family tree stops at Jackson, and you're like, well, I know he had to have some parents somewhere, then somebody in the family who always knows all the information will eventually tell you, hey, the family name wasn't really Jackson, it was Thompson. Then when you go and start finding the Thompsons, then you can take it back a lot further. So that's important. Once again, family trees are important. They are a representation of us. And our ancestry or our ancestral chart should be cherished. I really do believe that. So now, again, a family tree is a visual representation of your lineage. It's you tracing your relationship to your ancestors. And so it should start with you. So don't forget, I'm telling you here on the Who Are You show that your ancestry tree should start with you. And I think it's important that you create this tree. You may not start today, but at some point, I do want you to start, before we end our series, I do want you to start working on your family tree. Some reasons why you may want to start a family tree. It gives you a connection to your heritage. It can help you trace genetics, family health concerns. All right, sometimes you wonder, okay, now I got the sickle cell trait, but where did I get this from? And a lot of times people don't understand how they actually got the trait, or who has the trait, the reason they got the trait, or maybe the reason they have sickle cell is obvious. Two parents had the trait and had a child, but the parents, did they know who had the trait in their family? And so family health concerns can often be revealed when doing a family tree. You also can learn about your family and the historical events they may have experienced. I think that's important that we look at, did my family live through World War II? Did they live through the Great Depression? Were they in any wars? Were they recognized? Possibly, maybe you were related to somebody who did something great in history and you were never told about it, but you discovered that in your research. So I think it's important that you begin to ask some questions and seek and search for those answers and start your family tree. It's a good way also, if you have children, to get your children excited and invested in who they are and where they've come from. I think sometimes along the way we lose the desire to know who we are. We get caught up in working, we get caught up in careers, we get caught up in families, marriages, and all of that. But we have to go back and find out who we are, what makes us us, and why are you the way that you are? Why do you do the things that you do? Who are you? That's what we've got to answer. So you want to begin to see how far back you can go. Some people can take it back 6 generations. How far back can you go? On my mother's side of the family, my mother's side, there's a story. We all have stories about who we related to. And so there's a story there that said that we were descendants of George Washington. So I was determined, because another one of the family historians said that she had not necessarily been able to trace it back. So I said, oh, there's my challenge. I'm going to trace it back to George Washington, the former president of the United States. So I, in actuality, not sure if I got it right. I want to go back to some of those older adults who've done this a lot longer than me and ask, is it correct? But I was able to trace it back to George Washington's brother. So now I don't know if it's the brother or if it's him, but that's where my research led me. And so where will your research lead you? What stories have you heard? Has anybody been able to prove it? Maybe you're related to Beyonce. Maybe you're related to some of the famous people that we watch on TV today. Maybe you came from some of the people who did some great things in our history. Maybe won Nobel Peace Prizes. But this is just family talk. Nobody really knows how y'all are related. Then maybe you're the one who can take on the challenge and find out how you are related. So I want you to gather information about your family. Now, this is the Who Are You show. We're discovering our heritage. So I want you to gather information about your family. Okay, start to ask some questions. And the people that don't want to answer, ask somebody else. There's always somebody that don't want to answer, okay? If they don't want to answer, ask somebody else. But I need you to begin to ask some questions so that you won't live your entire life with questions about your identity that were never answered. So it is important, yes, to ask some questions about your life. Ask those family members to fill in the gaps. You know, okay, well, I heard grandmama lived, or my dear, you know, or mama lived, you know, in Louisiana for a while, but what was she doing down there? Because everybody said that she was born in Texas. So why did she go to Louisiana? What happened in Louisiana? Why didn't she, you know, stay there? What happened that she left Texas? You know, some of those things you're going to have to ask. Or, you know, our family was from the Caribbean. What happened to bring them to the United States? Okay, what happened to bring our family from Ireland to the United States? What happened that they left, you know, London or England to come to the United States? What was going on that they left Sweden and came over here? You know, so you got to begin to compile some information, and you got to begin to ask some questions and write those things down. Ask family members to help you fill in the gaps. And if they have any pictures, please get the pictures. Okay, Bishop Abrams is telling you, please get the pictures. All right, pictures will help you to put together a full, I hate to use the word again, picture of your family lineage and your family heritage. I really want you to make sure that if there are any pictures available, that you find those pictures. Even if you have to take a picture with your phone, take a picture of those family photos. One year, I went to my great uncle's house in St. Petersburg, Florida. My Uncle Bill, his name was William Collins, and I went to visit him. I was there actually for a conference, and I wanted to stay with him because I had not seen him in years. He was up in age, and I wanted to have some time to spend with him. He, I guess, being my grandmother's brother, he had lots of pictures as well. So he had a lot of pictures of family members. I took a lot of pictures with my cell phone. I said I needed to capture these pictures. And so that was what I did, because he had family pictures that I had not seen. And so I wanted to make sure that those pictures that seemed important to me and that he said were pictures that I needed to have, that I did take pictures of those. And so sometimes it's just a matter of going to visit an older relative and, you know, asking to see some of the family pictures, and make sure you get those pictures and you keep them for your records. Okay, but once again, this is helping you to know who you are. At some point, you may have to go to the library. You may have to research some of the census records, and we're going to talk about that. Some of the newspaper clippings, some of the land deeds. One of my ancestors, he owned a lot of slaves. He's the one that my mother's family comes from, the Collins family. He was very wealthy, and we actually have a copy of his deed, his final will and testament, where he does leave his children of color some of the land that he owned. And so it's important to get those type of documents as well. Keep those in your family record so that people many years from now will be able to see those. All right, so I need y'all to start gathering information. Start your family tree. All right, your family tree starts with you. Okay, so now you know a tree starts with the stump at the bottom and it grows upward. So you're going to be the person at the bottom, and you will also have your parents above you, and your children under you, and your spouses next to you. All right, and so I need you all to at least start there. Now, there are a few programs where you can start your family tree. You can always go on Ancestry.com. Ancestry has a trial for 1 month, and then you'll pay $24.99 per month. You can also go to MyHeritage. They have a 14-day trial. That's myheritage.com. And the family tree builder on there should be free on myheritage.com. You can also go to findmypast.com, and there it will be $14.95. So hopefully you've learned something today on Who Are You, and you have been pushed or at least motivated to do some work in your family genealogy and to discover who are you.
Have you ever wanted to know who you are or where you're from?
Wow, I really wanted to know where my family's from. I kind of thought we were from South Carolina, but I think I heard somebody say that we were from maybe the Virgin Islands or something like that.
I know oftentimes my family thought that they came from West Africa when they found out that we came from the South Central portion of Africa.
Many of us have heard that we're from one place, later to find out that none of that our family members thought was true was fact.
Oh, his family, because his mother was Native American, so we claim Native American because my ancestry has shown that we have that mixture, that blend that most of us have, but less Native American than African. So knowing your heritage and knowing where you came from is important. DNA does count.
So that'll be good to know.
Who are you?